Top of the morning, everyone, and welcome to another installment of the series, Three Things I Loved. My name is Ryan Kirk, and today we are going to be looking at The Desert Spear, which is Book 2 of the Demon Cycle by Peter V. Brett. This was a story that I really enjoyed, and am now very much looking forward to continuing the series, so let's dive right into it today. The first thing that I loved about The Desert Spear was the world building. Book 1 of the Demon Cycle, which was either called The Warded Man or The Painted Man, I think, depending on where in the world you were reading, was a very tightly focused book. It certainly didn't lack for world building, but all that we had the chance to see in the story was a very narrow slice of what was very clearly a much larger world. But in Book 2, we are treated to a much wider view of this world, and it is a true pleasure to read. There are a few fantasy authors working today that I immediately think of when I think of the skill of inserting world building in such a way that it never slows down the story, and you're almost getting all of the world building without even realizing it. The names that pop to the top of my head are Brent Weeks and Mark Lawrence, and I think Fonda Lee and Jade City does this really well too. But I'm going to have to add Peter V. Brett to the list now, because there is a tremendous amount of world building, a tremendous amount of expansion that happens in this story. And even though it is a much longer story than Book 1, it still feels very tightly plotted and has a very quick pace to it. It was very impressively done. The second thing that I liked about The Desert Spear, which is actually something that I also really liked about The Warded Man, is the way that it explores the question of what does it mean to be a hero. I think that fantasy as a genre has gone back and forth on this a little bit over the years. Back in the day, we had the very noble, very maybe pure heroes who were good through and through, and then I think particularly as grimdark fantasy and Game of Thrones started to influence the genre, we started to see more complex characters, and maybe even characters where it's even tough to maybe use the label heroic. But what I find so interesting about both The Warded Man and The Desert Spear is that there are very clearly heroes in this world. But that heroism comes at a severe cost. And it's fascinating to watch the way that Peter V. Brett explores this through a number of his characters. And I can't get enough of it. I think that the books ask very interesting questions, and it creates for very compelling, very deep, and very interesting characters. And finally, the third thing that I really loved about The Desert Spear is the way that our protagonists play off of one another. Without trying to spoil too much, in The Desert Spear, there are two humans who are eligible for the title of Deliverer, a prophesied figure who is sent to the planet to get rid of the demon horde. But what is interesting is that these two characters, who are both eligible, have completely opposite worldviews, and because of that, they act as wonderful foils for one another, highlighting the strengths and weaknesses of each approach. And it's just so well done. It was a pleasure to see the two of them develop and see how the two of them develop in relation to the prophecies that have been made, and the way that their presence influences the people around them. So overall, I really enjoyed this story. I will be diving into book number 3 in the series in pretty short order. I am very excited to get glimpses of even more of the world, but maybe more than anything else, I am very excited to see how these characters develop over time. I'm very excited to see where this story leads. So, everyone, I hope that you're having a wonderful day. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll be back again soon. Have a good one.